currently joining our forum named Sustainable Practices for Students and Green Technologies. All of our group, we are all thankful and glad you joined today. And we hope this forum gives you an insight on different approaches and technologies to contribute toward sustainable changes. There will be a live streaming of this for your information. This will begin pretty much now. This is just want to let you know about that. We will perhaps wait for 1 more minute and then we will start with our program. I just want to make sure that you guys, I want to tell you that I really appreciate everybody's participation today. Another perhaps a housekeeping rule I would like to let you know about is to please keep your microphone on mute. There will be a spotlight feature being done on the people that are starting with the presentations. So those people should be the only ones with their microphone on. We really appreciate it. Without any further ado, let's start with our program. Today we have in our agenda 8 talks. We would start with our student sustainability practices with Rohit Sheoran. So please, yeah, hope you guys like his presentation. He will start right now.
Thank you, Camilo, for letting me in.
No problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rohit. I'm a master's student at University of Stuttgart, and my topic is sustainability in everyday life. So let's start. What is sustainability? A good place to start when talking about sustainability is to define it. What does it mean to you? Too often, sustainability is used as a short-handed without consideration for what it actually stands for. So let's go for the definition part. I like the capacity to endure, the capacity to remain in existence, a dynamic process which enable all the people to realize their potential and improve their quality of life in a way that simultaneously protect and enhance Earth life and support system. I like this definition because it makes clear the fact that we are dependent on the Earth. So we better look after it while making the link to all the people realizing their potential, that we collectively have a better life if we take care of environment. There is an aspirational element rather than just we should do this because we must. Why does it matter? Our natural resources are finite, and population and mass consumption is a trend everywhere. What is available to us today doesn't mean future generation will have same experience. The easiest way to illustrate the importance of sustainability is by looking at the state we put the world in by not following the sustainable living practices. Since the Industrial Revolution, we know been consistently and diseasely damaging our planet. The lack of education about the sustainable practice had led us to a sorry state of affairs. Currently, world is warming up 10 times the pace normal for it, cyclic temperature fluctuations. Sea levels continue to rise. What is sustainable development? Sustainable development focuses on the future generation. It is a holistic process. It is a holistic process that covering economical, social point of the life. It is systematic phenomena with global effect based on human responsibilities. Sphere of sustainability. I like to discuss with you all what is the sphere of sustainability. When it comes to describing sustainability in our own world, we need to concern about 3 main areas of influence. There are three interconnected spheres of sustainability that describe relationship between the environment, economics, and social aspect of our world. These spheres are related sets of concepts that, whether taken together, form a solid ground. Major decision and action can be made. Example of decision could be including land planning, surface water management, and like environmental management. And the concept contaminated in three spheres of this sustainability are applied to the real world situation, everybody wins. Natural resources are preserved, environmental is protected, economy is not harmed, and the quality of life of our people is improved. Now I like to discuss with these in details. Let's start with the economics. In economics, economic sustainability involve creating economics values out of whatever project or decision you are undertaking. And environmental, in a truly sustainable environmental ecosystem would maintain population, biodiversity, and overall functionality over an extended period of time. Ideally, decisions that are made should promote equilibrium with our natural system and seek to increase positive growth. And now, social. Social sustainability is based on the concept that decisions promote betterment of society. In general, future generations should have some or greater quality of life benefit as current generation do. The concept also encompasses many things such as human rights, environmental laws, public involvement, and practices. One of the greatest example of social sustainability is like to impose a water quality bill in US in 1972. The government imposed a drinking water quality bill against water. And now, who implement these sustainable development? All the people as individual subject as a part of their community in society. And let's the great leader of the world, Gandhi, said, be the change you want to see in the world. Now we're going toward the sustainable living. What exactly mean by a sustainable living? Sustainable living is a lifestyle that aim to reduce one's environmental impact in a way that our sustainability for both on earth and for the persons. It also depends on the three spheres: environmental, social, economical. The common part of these species considered as sustainable living. Sustainable living can be done at your home or can at your work. At your home, change the light in your house. It's example of sustainable living at your home. Change the current light with their LED lights or CFL light to improve the energy efficiency. Become more efficient with your errands. Try to use less fossil fuels. Start using natural cleaners. Start using like natural cleanings, like mix water with vinegar and start as a cleaning agent instead of chemicals. Reduce, reuse, recycle. These are the three most important R in the term of sustainability. Try to reduce as much as you can. Buy right sizes house. We have to be very optimistic about these things. When we are buying something, we have to buy exact as per our requirement. Use daylight as much as possible. We have to daylight is a sunlight and it's available in free and a very infinite amount, so you can use as much as possible. Buy products with less packaging. Always try to buy products with less packaging or without packaging. At work, you can walk, bike, or carpool to the work. Whenever you are traveling to work, you try to use public transport or walking or biking or carpool. Stop unwanted mails. There are a lot of mails or there are a lot of marketing companies which continuously sending you by mail or letters. So try to unsubscribe them unwanted mails so you can save paper from them. Choose renewable energy. Try to choose renewable energy at your work. As example, solar energy or wind energy. Dish the plastic. Same. You always have to carry your bag along with you and not try to buy these plastic bags. Use sustainable techniques. Sustainable techniques mean you can use rechargeable batteries. You have to recharge them or unplug the device when not are in use. Basically your laptops and other things, if you are not using them, you can unplug them. become a member of community garden. It's something like you can grow your food by your own. It's something like it's not on like a social, it's a work, but it's a social also. Like if you go there, you are like promoting the social sustainability over there. You tell people about this. I'm growing my own food with the community living here. Now like we have some tips. Practice minimize as much as you can. Try to reduce the waste or try to reduce the resources. Support sustainability. We always have to support the sustainability ideas. Try to offset travel, like bike carpool, or you try to use the public transport. Adopt a sustainable lifestyle. Spend more time like going outside or playing games. It will help you like to save the energy. If you are sitting in a home and playing, like watching TV, that take energy. And cultivate sustainable habit. Always bring your mug, bring your bottle together with you, so you don't need to buy other purchase or something. Like build connection. More time to like you have to build connection with your friend, family, or a community where are you living. You have to spread the ideas of sustainability. You can share with them. Now I have some interesting fact about the sustainability. If people worldwide switch to energy efficient light bulb, the world could save 120 billion US dollar annually, and that's a huge amount. We all know there's a lot of poverty in our world and lot of unemployment are there. We can use this money to like undeveloping countries or underdeveloping countries. The global average of sea rose by 19 centimeters from 1900 to 2010 as ocean expanded into the warming and melting ice. Energy is a dominating contributor to the climate change, accounting for around 60% of the total greenhouse emission. The energy, like this energy, we are talking about thermal energy plants where the energy is built. We generate energy. So this is something they create greenhouse emission around 60% of the whole greenhouse emissions. Agriculture emissions could be reduced as much as 70% by adopting a vegan diet or 63% by adopting a vegetarian diet. Recycling 1 ton of paper saved 2584 liter of oil and 26498 liter of water and 2.5 cubic meter of landfill space. And recycling of 1 ton of paper saves 17 trees. So that's why we try to recycle as much as we can, because we have to preserve these things for our future generations. Plastic bags and styrofoam container can take thousands of years to decompose and leading to marine animal deaths and contamination of soil and water. And most of these styrofoam containers are like plastic bottles or water bottles. So try to avoid as much as you can, because it's not able to compose easily like other things. It takes year, and it's a like biggest threat to our aquatic life. So thank you so much for having me tonight. I really think so. If you learn something from this presentation and try to implement these methods at your home also and your workplaces also, and be the change what you want to see in the world. We are the one who have to start this initiative by our own. Then we can implement to our others. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Rohit. We really appreciate. I believe there is a little feature within your Zoom where you can have a little clappy. So yeah, that would be a great. Please share the love with my friend Rohit. Thank you very much for your presentation. Let's say it was really insightful. Thank you. I just want to make you all aware, guys, at the moment of something. You can ask questions on our live stream on the chat on YouTube, or as well in our chat in Zoom. All of these questions will be directed to the specific speaker at the end of this meeting, okay? So you are more than welcome to ask questions during this meeting. Now let's move to our second talk with Nery Condory. She will talk about university dormitory recycling.
Hi everyone, my name is Nery, and today I will present. I will talk about recycling in Pfaffenhof dormitories. In the dormitories, we can find students coming from different parts of the world, all of them with different recycling habits. Some of them recycled back home, and some of them didn't do it. When I moved to Germany, I had very high expectations, you know, because Germany is very well known because of their waste management. And I was a bit shocked with the idea that I was living at the university dormitory and they did not really recycle. They didn't have the Gelbesack recycling introduced in the dormitories. And sometimes when I asked my roommates if I am doing it right or not, they would tell me like, no, we don't really recycle because everything ends up in the same bin. So we only separate glass and paper, but sometimes also paper, we were not doing a proper recycling because sometimes we place cartons that they were too greasy, or everything that is paper, they put it there, but there was some material that will not be recycled at the end, like greasy pizza boxes or napkins, dirty napkins, and so on. So some weeks later, we hear about an initiative that was started with some students for Generation 2018. This group organized a presentation and they were calling for volunteers to help them. The main goal was to introduce Gelbesack in dormitories to just avoid that valuable material end up in the waste mold, which at the end will be just incinerated. And we thought it would be also a good idea to introduce this in our dormitories. And we have some meetings with the dormitory management, and they were very interested to implement in Pfaffenhof. So we also, at the beginning, we made a survey to figure it out. And we figured out that there's a large amount of students that were really willing to help us to introduce Gelbesack in here. And what we did is to identify all the participants of this project, which is basically the students, new students, like future students, and also the current students, PSSW, which is the company who administrates. And they also create the figure of a tutor, which is like a recycling tutor or waste tutor, how they call it. And that it's a person who will be the link between the project, and it will also, this person will help the new students who arrives to give an introduction about how is the recycling process working in here. And we also figured out that we will need some recycling volunteer force. These people will be in charge of an awareness campaign between the students, and also will help us to do some revisions once in a while to see how the recycling is going. And we also want to find out that we have different living spaces. We have private apartments, we have shared apartments, and we have dormitories with 13 students sharing the kitchen mainly. And one of our concerns was if we should apply the project to everyone, because somehow we can check the recycling bin with in the shared apartments, in the shared kitchens, but it would be very difficult to check it in the private apartments or even in the shared apartments. But at the end, we agreed with the administration that it would be better to apply to everyone. So students are often confused about what and how to recycle. And this results in either a poor recycling behavior or to refuse to recycle at all. So our aim was to encourage them, to train them, to give them the information they need about what to recycle or what not to recycle, to reply their doubts, and why not, maybe also they could help us to spread the information. I believe if a new student arrives and face an environment where everyone recycles and teach them how to do it, it will be easier for him or her to adapt. And we suggest this process to them, to the company. And first, we wanted to tell them that they should start an awareness campaign before the arrival of the new student. So the student knows the responsibility. Also to do a proper training after his or her arrival to emphasize the recycling procedure. This is for the case of new students. And for current students, we will need to do an educational campaign about recycling, especially to the kitchen speakers to strengthen the compromise with the project. And recycling education is really like the base. It's really needed in order to increase the recycling rates and to avoid like placing waste in the wrong bins. After the introduction of the Gelbe sack, we will need to do a follow-up. We also need to receive feedback to see how they're doing and how we can improve it. And well, recycling is the job of everyone. It's not just the job of one person. So we always need, students are responsible for this, but there will always be somebody who will help us or support them, like kitchen speakers, volunteers, and tutors. Since the students are mainly responsible of recycling because they will decide where to place the waste in one bin or the other, we have prepared some labels. Those labels were based on what are the most common waste generated from students, like pizza boxes, yogurt containers, meal boxes, and so on. And here, those slides are part of the awareness campaign, where basically we show them like the things they commonly use and things that are commonly misplaced. Like here, sometimes we find like they place containers full of food. This should be clean, or they can remove these items and places in the Gelbe sack, or containers with food, or items that do not belong, not even to Resmo. And here are some pictures of, this is before the project, and this is after the project was implemented. The labels, and also they provide a special bins for private apartments. We also have informed about the location and schedule to place the Gelbe sack. And here's the initiation of the project. The volunteers, the housemeister, and the kitchen speaker, they were handing over the Gelbe sack. And I wanted to show this picture because this is something very common at least in my dormitory. I have found it like 3 times already. I'm always telling like why sometimes because those items are like always coming from the bathroom, right? But they end up in the bin, in the waste bin in the bathroom. Instead, they could just pick it up and put it in the right bin, like in the recyclable bin. In this case, this in Gelbe sack, and this is in the paper bin. So remember that a small place is many small people in small places doing small things can change the world. Imagine if we think like this, like if we throw this one person, because they would say, okay, it's just a little. But imagine if 1,000 people think like this, or 1,000 million, what would be the impact at the end? So small things can make the difference. So there's another small thing we can do. So it's just not about recycling. It is also about reduce our water and energy waste. Simple actions like turn off the light or turn off the heater when you don't need it, inform about a broken toilet that runs water, or to close the tap when you're not using it, or reducing even the pressure when you wash your dishes can help us to save the environment. So these are the upcoming goals. If everything goes well, hopefully we can implement e-waste and biomod. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nery. That was a really interesting presentation. It is a great topic, relatable to many of us, like myself, living at the University of Stuttgart campus. And yes, as you said, small efforts can generate big changes. That is completely right. Just as I said before, please, if you wanna show your likes for her presentation, please just press the clap button on Zoom. Now, another interesting issue will be discussed by Pawan Bhoyar, and the topic is named Using Second-Hand hand products to Reduce Waste.
Hello, Camilo.
Yes, Pawan, I believe something that we can do at the moment.
I need a little bit of work. If you could just skip through me. Yeah, if you could move to the next participant, I'll sort of work this out, and maybe I can start after that.
Please just message me if you want, or David, and we will sort that out. We can definitely go towards the next speaker. That is actually myself. So
okay.
That I have decided actually to record myself for this meeting. We can actually see you now, but there is a we will continue with myself, and then we will go back to you. So we will ask please our technical team to please put me as on a spotlight, Juan Camilo Lancheros on a spotlight, so I can start my part of the presentation, if that's okay. So as I was saying before, I've decided to record myself, as I was curious about the experience. I have never done it before, and I thought this could be the perfect time to do it. So I hope you like it. Let me start sharing my screen. Welcome, and thank you everybody for taking part in this forum and listening to my presentation about the green office concept. This will be our agenda for the day. Initially, I will tell you a bit about myself. Then we will start with a brief introduction of the topic, followed by an overview of our university core sustainability state. Later, we will discuss two proposals around the green office concept, both aim to improve issues found in our university. We will finalize this presentation with a small conclusion. Let's start. My name is Camilo Lancheros. I am a student from the Waste Master Program at University of Stuttgart and one of the class speakers of Generation 2019. I have decided to start this course to learn how to contribute to the change of our society's practices and behaviors, some of which are detrimental to our environment and its sustainability. Today's presentation is a step forward towards this goal. As mentioned before, I will be describing the term green office, sharing some examples of its implementation, and discussing the importance this concept could bring to the university community we belong to. Worldwide, scientific consensus has established that climate change and the challenges of environmental sustainability are a serious threat to our future, and if we don't act soon, to our present as well. It is of vital importance that our university recognizes and places its responsibility to lead future generations towards sustainable practices as a priority in its common future goals. To achieve this, we must first know what are our university sustainability efforts and how do they compare to other universities in Germany and around the world. Here is the meaning of sustainability as defined in 1987 during the World Commission on Environmental Development. Our university was founded in 1829. Here in Stuttgart, it comes with around 25,000 students, and it is ranked as the 279 according to the 2020 World University Rankings. Our university's vision is to continuously develop intelligent systems for a sustainable society based on the Stuttgart Way, a concept that aims for interdisciplinary integration of different fields based on the fundamentals of cutting-edge research at a disciplinary level. The strategic goals for the university were defined in 2018. So the 6 goals are attractiveness to students, the Stuttgart Way, explaining earlier, continue with its international award research capabilities, continue being an attractive employer, lead innovation and the knowledge transfer efforts, and keep its international renown status. Even though these goals have various sustainable considerations, there are no clear or specific sustainability commitments, which is a huge problem for leadership and development of future strategies in this regard. However, sustainability is still present at the university. Several courses, extracurriculum activities, and research efforts are present at the university. Furthermore, students' efforts led by stewards are another way sustainability is around our university. Still, the development of a clear body or common plan to manage such activities is essential for students and the commitment our university must have with the environment. The Green Office could be one of those alternatives. Founded in 2009, the Green Office is currently located in 3 continents, with a total of 47 offices, most of them in Europe, where it was founded. The vision of the Green Office concept is to empower higher education institutions to become enablers for sustainability. This motto awarded them the UNESCO Japan Prize on Education for Sustainable Development. While its mission is to formalize these efforts at university using one of these concepts. A student-led Green Office team with a staff contact, separated student and staff teams, or a joint team of students and staff. Some cases to highlight of Green Office's efforts would be the one in Germany at the Constance University, which takes a holistic approach to sustainability and aims to make Constance University more sustainable in teaching, research, and campus operations. Another example will be the effort the Green Team of the University of Brussels in Belgium, which has achieved the creation of a Green Impact Program to enhance sustainability among staff members, as well as the construction of an insect ecosystem to secure the environment lifetime. Finally, the Green Office in Amsterdam Free University has achieved the co-creation of a sustainability minors and honors, as well the publication of the Science for Sustainability Journal, and continuously seeks the support for local sustainable fruits and vegetable markets. Another alternative to a student and staff office is the development of a common plan of sustainability embracing all parts of our university community. One example of this began in 2009 at Harvard University, one of the best 3 institutions in the world. This effort was named Sustainability Plan. Its vision is to have a uniform plan for its decentralized campus with the development of clear goals, prioritizing sustainability. Their motto, learn it, live it, has 4 ideas to support it. Teach the leaders of the future, embrace the best sustainable practices, always be aware of other sustainability initiatives, and use the campus as a sustainable lab for the students and all university community. To accomplish these realistic goals and commitments and standards have been developed since 2009, all around 5 specific topics: emissions and energy, nature and ecosystems, health and well-being, campus operations, and culture and learning. Some of these goals and commitments are reduction of the greenhouse gases, waste and water, and the maintenance of its green landscape, standards such as green building, cleaning and IT standards, commitments with the greenhouse gases reduction, its tracing, and with other elements that are detrimental to the environment, just to mention a few. As you can see, higher education institutions play a significant role for students in understanding for the complexity of sustainability. As well, we learn that there are different alternatives to tackle the lack of sustainability efforts at any university. Our task now involves choosing and developing one of these alternatives, as it is the key ingredient for accountability and continual improvement towards our common goal of sustainability. Thank you for your time.
Stop share. Well, I think that was a really good presentation. Yes, I hope you guys like it. That was my part. So we can now continue with the. We still are solving some issues with Pawan, but we will go now with our presentation about bioconstruction, led by my friend Zuemmy Nevarez. Hope you guys like it.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining. I'm Zuemmy. I would like to continue speaking about another tool to help our environment, which is called bioconstruction. And first, I would like you to think about what the word means to you. How do you think you're related to it? While I show you the contents, I would like to first tell you the definition of bioconstruction, where can you see it, who came up with this idea, what materials and techniques are used. Then we'll go through some advantages and disadvantages. And at last, we'll talk about one challenge that bioconstruction faces. Its definition, it's a discipline that seeks to reduce environmental impact during the design, construction, but also while the building is being used. And characteristics about it is that it uses natural materials that can be easily returned to Earth. But not only that, it also, since we are generating more waste than we can handle, bottles and all other types of waste are used for construction. It implies less energetic costs also during construction and during the use of the building, and it preserves nature as well as human health. In the picture below, you can see a house that was built in the middle of the woods, and they preserve a tree inside of it. They make it like the centerpiece of the house. And I bet the feeling of living inside will be really different than in a normal house. Where can I find bioconstruction? The picture at the left is from a shop in my hometown. It's called 7-Eleven. It's a USA brand company. And they integrated the tree also inside the shop, which is really nice. Then other example is this dry toilet. It uses ashes or other natural materials instead of water. And then it's fertilizer for plants. Next, we can also find this little drawing. You can guess what it is, maybe. It's a 2,400-year-old refrigeration system called yakshal, and the Persians use it to preserve food. So it is possible to have cold beer in the desert. This Warka water is a project in Ethiopia where they use this bamboo to create mesh and gather rainfall. This can give food and for the garden for 1 to 3 families, and they also gather human waste and use it as fertilizers. On the bottom left, we have palapas, we call them. If you've been to the beach, for sure you've seen them, palm roofs. And in Germany, we have 2 examples. The old little cute houses called Fachwerkhäuser. they were for sure bioconstruction because they used wood sticks and then mud and straw. And if a family had to move, they reused these little wood sticks. They will destroy the house and they will take the wood sticks with them because it was really expensive and difficult to find nice. Then can be also made of waste or whatever material. It's really resistant. And it is the first airship in Germany. It's in Tempelhof in Baden-Württemberg, actually. Some materials used, you can read them on top, either for walls, roofs, or also waterproofing. Techniques, the first one is the most known, adobe. It's like mud bricks. And a regular house will normally like 2,000 or 3,000 wood bricks. You can make like 100 a day, which is really good production. Next picture is called bajareke, which is trimmed bamboo or cane or reed. And then on top you will put mud. And it's really resistant and really good for, it maintains constant temperature inside the house. Next one is tapial. It's curious because a person has to stand between two walls and then just step on it many, many times to compress the soil. And then you can construct the walls around the house. And the two last pictures are domes made from super adobe. That's a faster way of making homes. And also walls. They can be seismic secure. So it is possible to do bioconstruction for zones where there's earthquakes. And other two techniques are progressive development, which is constructing little by little the homes, not everything at once. And that's been done in third world countries for, since I don't know. Okay, then how does this idea came up? There's a German architect called Gernot Minke, who noticed that after Second World War, cement started to be used because it looked as contemporary, modern, and it was like progress. But it demanded a lot of energy to make. So he started writing books about how to return to the mud and straw construction. And he has a lot of projects around Uruguay, South America, and other countries. But this was not the beginning of bioconstruction. Our ancestors have a lot of knowledge about it. And maybe you know the city of Caral in Peru. It's a 5,000-year-old city, which was made by a similar technique as bajareke. And it is believed that it was meant for art. So if you ask yourself if bioconstruction can stand with time, it can. Some disadvantages about it is that it takes longer time for constructing. You need more workforce. There's a lack of knowledge about the energetic cost of materials. This is because in every country, energy is produced in a different way. So materials require have a different cost to produce. In Mexico, I can tell you, PVC, plastic, to produce 1 ton of that material, we need like 19,000 kilowatts. But to produce 1 ton of adobe, we need only 40 kilowatts. So it's an advantage to use natural materials, but it's a disadvantage that we don't know much about the process and cost about their energetic consumption during production. Also, another disadvantage is lack of technological development. There are a lot of local knowledges, but we have not developed them further. And they require maintenance. For example, the soil floors, they need to be like retreated every 2 or 3 years. And also the waterproofing. We use the prickly pear and lime, which are Mayan knowledge, to do waterproofing in the roofs. And that needs to be redone every now and then. Or also we can use alum and soap to do waterproofing. That's really interesting. And now the advantages. It's reduced energetic cost. I mentioned that it has low heating and cooling necessities. For example, if a house made with bioconstruction is located in a place where at night is like less than 10 degrees and at the day at 40 degrees, its constant temperature will be between 21 and 23 degrees, which is impressive. Then it respects nature and life. It seeks for the integration of humanity with nature. It's collaborative because you need a lot of people to do it, so it binds people together. And that's good because people have an identity and a sense of belonging. And you need this sense of belonging to create change in the world. So for everything you want, you need like people convinced of what they are doing. So that's good. It also allows for culture expression and creativity. If you see the shape of houses from bioconstructions compared to standard houses, they are really different. They can be whatever you want them to be. That's really good. And also creativity, we needed to come up with solutions to live along with nature without harming it. It's free and local knowledge. We don't have to pay patents to use it. It promotes a healthier lifestyle connected to nature. It incentives observation because we have to look how nature has evolved in years and try to imitate it and use this intelligence to construct. And lastly, it doesn't need heavy machines or cranes or trucks. It just uses simple tools, and that's it. A challenge that bioconstruction faces, lastly, is to put together the architecture knowledge with the local knowledge. And I think with that, we can have amazing results. So that was a short overview of bioconstruction. I hope you like it. And have a nice day, everybody. Thank you.
Well, that was actually quite an interesting presentation. I have learned a lot, actually. That's really insightful. I hope soon some of these concepts are embraced by the construction and architecture industries, because they are all great ideas. Thank you for your presentation, and just a clap if you want to show some love there. Now we actually have we believe we have solved the issue with our friend Pawan Bhoyar. So we will again invite him to present his topic, using second-hand products to reduce waste.
Okay, thank you very much, Camilo. Sorry for the apologies for the technical failure. So my name is Pawan Bhoyar. I'm a student of University of Stuttgart, and my presentation today is about using second-hand to reduce waste. I want to take a brief moment to talk about my journey into waste. During my university times in India, I used to travel every day from my home to my university via taking this train, which we call metro in Delhi. So every day I used to pass through this narrow route towards my university station, and there was this big pile of garbage that I could see every day. It was the biggest landfill in India, the biggest garbage dump in India that had been there for many years, and it was constantly growing higher and higher with every growing year. So that popped a question into my mind that why is such a physical entity existing in a developed economy like that? I figured the answer was our consumerism, because as civilizations develop, our ability to consume and our desire to consume more and more increases, and that makes us to consume so much to the point that we don't know what to do with the stuff that we have. And that sort of motivated me, this desire to fix this problem of excessive waste, excessive solid waste in India. That motivated me to come to Germany to understand how to tackle with these waste challenges. And my presentation today is based upon how to use secondhand to reduce secondhand as a strategy to reduce the waste that is released. So this is a beginner's guide to how to deal with the waste issues. So my name is Pawan. I have a background in nanotechnology, and I have been working with Camilo and my team on the Pfaffenhof project and a couple of other projects around university focused towards sustainability. So the presentation today is going to be about how to get started with secondhand. Why is it relevant, and why everybody needs to really care about reusing things in their daily life. So why live off secondhand? We all know that it's going to be good for the environment, because every time we buy something new, energy has to be invested in the making of the process, extraction of the raw material, processing of the products, creating a final product and getting the final product from the point of manufacturing to the point of destination where you're able to buy it. All these processes require a lot of energy to be invested in that, and that energy requirement creates a lot of pollutions and emissions that are generated into the environment and to the atmosphere. And if we are using secondhand, this is what we are able to avoid on a daily basis. So according to the figures by the United Nations Environment Program, it takes around close to 4,000 liters of water to make just a pair of jeans, from the production of cotton till having the final product. And if one single jeans can contribute so much of wastewater, the amount that we would be spending for our entire wardrobe would be humongous. The fashion industry alone itself uses around 93 billion cubic meters of water, and that's enough to feed more than 5 million people. And it's responsible, the fashion industry is responsible for so much of global carbon emissions, and it's way more than any international flights and any maritime shipping combined. A lot of money is lost every year processing the waste that is generated by the fashion industry. And this is another fact that should motivate other people, to encourage to get themselves involved in considering secondhand, or at least the reuse or minimizing their consumption about fashion products and of any kind of products. Germany, one conception that I had for coming to EU country was that European countries are extremely developed when it comes to their capacity to recycle and to handle packaging material. But upon reading the statistics, I have seen that it is developed economies that always end up using more plastic, generating more garbage as compared to developing countries or underdeveloped countries. It is actually developed countries who throw all their garbages into the developing countries. And that creates a constant loop of change, which is in the end degrading the environment. Per capita, per person generates close to 250 kilograms of packaging or waste of any sort per year in Germany. And this trend just declines slightly throughout the Euro, but is still extremely significant. So a lot of waste that is thrown into this garbage has the potential to be recycled or reused. That includes a lot of glass, a lot of metal, plastic, food materials, rubber materials, paper materials that could be recycled or reused. All of this potential ends up in landfills, and that is and because of this, the potential of energy recovery gets tapped into this Earth's surface, which is going to stay there forever and is going to contribute to the greenhouse gases and further pollution of the water table. A lot of majority of the waste is plastic. Plastic has been the biggest boon for humanity as well as the biggest destroyer of it, because despite its sturdiness and its ability to last longer and its neutrality to chemicals, plastic takes a lot of time to decompose. And like more than 80% of the plastic is inside the oceans. The waste gets dumped inside the oceans, and hundreds and thousands of animals die because of contamination because of this plastic. And especially from the fashion industry, 87% of the dyeing process, the water generated, which contains tiny microfibers, all of this gets dumped into the oceans, and it's extremely difficult to clean these microfibers, and these gets consumed by animals. And then when humans consume these animals, these fibers in the end get into human bodies. So how to change your relationship with trash? So this is the introductory on how to start living with used products, how to go about buying secondhand, and how to go about reusing products that you already have. So if you have something that has lost its functionality in terms for you instead of rather throwing it out or discarding it, it's best to consider to be recycled, this could be either given off to second-hand shops, or could be given off to in bulk sales, sold to the recycling people, so that they could extract the energy and the resources out of it, or otherwise it could be given off to somebody who can identify the potential value in the material and use it to be put in the right way. So this is something that one can do, every person can do to reduce their carbon footprint upon the planet. One way is to simple way is to reduce, reuse, and recycle, reducing the amount of items that we purchase, the consumption that is causing this biggest problem in the environment. If we were simply to downsize our purchases, that could create a huge impact upon the everyday conditions of the world. And another thing would be to reuse. Always trying to find a unique way to keep the item away from being dumped. Trying to reuse the same amount of same types of products. Trying to find unique ways to reuse materials so that they do not end up in trash bins, but last in your shelves longer. To recycle properly. Adopting the existing norms which have been created by the government or the society in general, and following these recycle standards, so that all the material that has been manufactured gets to the proper recycling methodology, so that it could be utilized the appropriate way, and so that it can be brought back onto the shelf instead of ending up in a landfill. That is something that one can do to contribute on a small scale to the growing sustainability. So if somebody is new into reusing and using second-hand products, so if somebody wants something specific like a printer or a laptop or a phone or anything to be purchased, one can first thing do the Facebook markets, or can check out on eBay's. One can consider doing online shopping. There's a lot of second-hand shops for cars, for mobile phones online that could be utilized for this purposes. There are also consignment stores that cater to individual needs and can be utilized for buying something specific. But when a lot of times when we simply want to browse around, for instance, I, especially when traveling around Stuttgart, I go to second-hand stores and thrift stores all the time just to check out what collections they have. And sometimes you end up finding a lucky deal, where you find an item that seems to be extremely valuable, but is there available at an extremely cheap price. So these are some of the places where you could just skim by. A couple of them are available in Stuttgart as well, like a Facebook group called Free Your Stuff Stuttgart. It's a forum for people who want to get rid of their stuff for without any cost. So I have got a couple of things from this forum, and I would suggest others to utilize this as well. Another place would be antique stores or pawn shops. One can always take a round around these places because they're always filled with antiquities and a lot of historic and interesting materials. So one interesting place that I found is the fair the flea market that takes place in Karlplatz in Stuttgart. This is a really interesting place. Has all sorts of second-hand material and antique material, and especially for students who are in the Stuttgart region, they also offer a lot of discounts for the purchases, so that this would be extremely interesting to check out. I have mentioned a link below that anybody could subscribe to and access all the places that have been listed down in the region of Stuttgart for these purposes. Some additional tips to reuse or to contribute more towards sustainability would be to go to zero waste. It's a really interesting philosophy that encourages the redesigning of making products to make them easily reusable. That, for instance, making your own toothpaste, making your own toothbrush, making your own face wash, all these sorts of things that we take for granted, and we without realizing we contribute so much to the degradation and plastic generation. One can really consider checking out zero waste websites and reading a bit about the philosophy and trying to understand and at times adapting as well. Or another approach would be to go digital to avoid as much paperwork as possible, avoiding the bureaucracy and trying to avoiding the paper crunch that so many people have. And another interesting approach would be to go vegan. This sort of resonates with a lot of people who are against animal barbarism, and definitely has an extremely strong impact on reducing the carbon footprint of the general population. So what do we do now? We know that burying garbage in ground creates a toxic legacy for our children and our grandchildren. Greenhouse gases are being emitted, and water table is being poisoned by these practices as we are talking. This is all happening now. That is why we must act now, and it is essential for us all as innovators and as sustainability, as pioneers into this field, to realize that it's essential to reduce the consumerism. In the first place, before we begin to tackle out the end result. So yeah, this is something that I came across, that the most environmentally friendly product is the one you do not buy. This is something that rings totally with my philosophy of reuse and secondhand, that the best thing is to make use of what you have available currently and try not to buy anything that you might find interesting. A lot of people want to buy bio products, but the best thing is just not to buy them. So thank you very much for your attention. Back to you, Camilo.
I just thank you very much, Pawan. I just discovered where the clap button is, and I think that was the right time. That was a really nice presentation. Yeah, that all of the ideas that you shared were amazing, and I might pay a visit to one of that antique shop that you have mentioned. Let's continue. Thank you again. So our next speaker is Christopher Onyia. He unfortunately won't be able to join us with his presence, but he has done a video similar to mine. So he hopes that you enjoy his talk, Capturing of CO2.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my presentation. My name is Onyia Christopher Uchechukwu, and I'll be presenting you with the topic, the role of carbon capture and storage in achieving a sustainable climate and environment. Yes, 8 minutes may not be enough for me to give in details what carbon capture and storage is all about, its implementation and uses, but I will try to make it vivid enough so that you understand the concept of carbon capture and storage and why it is necessary. Firstly, we take ourselves to the issue of the Paris Agreement. In the year 2015, the world leaders, more than 100 of them, gathered in Paris and signed an agreement which is referred to as the Paris Agreement. This agreement is aimed at strengthening the global response to the threat of climate change by keeping the global temperature rise this century well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial level. We know that the pre-industrial level temperature was estimated at 13.7 degrees, and currently we have a temperature rise of about 15.7 degrees. And this is about 2 degree rise. So the Paris Agreement is saying that if we are actually going to have a sustainable environment, if we are actually going to stay within the carbon budget of the Earth, that means we have to keep the temperature of the Earth within this level, not above 2 degrees. 1.5 degrees is actually what we're aiming at, but the 2 degree is a bit better. So we look at what is the goal of this agreement. The short-term goal is to peak the carbon emissions to the atmosphere as soon as possible, and then the long-term goal is to limit the increase in global average temperature and achieve a neutral balance for carbon into the atmosphere. Moving ahead from this, we ask ourselves, what is climate change? And climate change, as we all know, is a change in the pattern of the weather in relation to changes in ocean, land surface, the ice sheet, occurring over time scale of decade or longer. Yeah, we already know the effects of this climate change. We know about the global warming, we know about the heat waves, we know about this increase in tsunami, increase in flooding, the melting of the glaciers, we know about the dryness of the land, vegetations are not going well. So this is actually the effect of the climate change. And the climate change which are all talking about is actually caused by the emission of greenhouse gases. Now we ask ourselves, what are these greenhouse gases? Greenhouse gases are those gases that are being emitted from industrial processes and human activities that have adverse effects on the atmosphere. And from the greenhouse gases, we have like water vapor, methane, nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide, ozone, etc. And from the graph, you can see that carbon dioxide is one of the potent greenhouse gases, leading to about 56 to 60% of the global greenhouse gases being emitted. And therefore, we look at what is carbon dioxide and how does it increase the greenhouse gases, how does it contribute to global warming. Now, carbon dioxide, as we know, contributes to global warming because it has the ability of absorbing infrared radiation. When the sun's infrared radiation comes into the earth, it radiates part of it. And because of the increase in the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, this carbon dioxide actually absorb this radiation, thereby increasing the temperature of the earth. So carbon dioxide is one of those greenhouse gases that has the ability to absorb more of this infrared radiation. Now, in the pre-industrial area, we know that the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was about 0.028%, but right now we are looking at 0.04% of carbon. And we can look at the figures and say that, man, it's very insignificant. 0.01% is very insignificant. But we can see the effect of this insignificant 0.01% is causing. Then what will be the cause when it gets to 1%? So this cause for action is 0.01% can actually lead to this effect. When it gets to 1%, that means that we cannot stay in this earth. That's just the truth. So it's cause for action that we actually limit the amount of carbon dioxide which we emit to the atmosphere. So this takes us to the carbon budget. What is the carbon budget? If you're going to limit this carbon dioxide, so we need to know what this budget is and what we are working at. And the carbon budget, this is the limit of the amount of carbon the world can emit to maintain global warming below a certain temperature limit. And this lets us know we have the 2-degree budget. In the 2-degree budget, currently we have about 1,170 gigatons of carbon. This is the carbon budget for a 2-degree increase in temperature. And if we are actually going to stay within this carbon budget, we have about 25 years. That means if we continue emitting at the rate which we are emitting right now, because currently the world is emitting about 42 gigatons of carbon every year. So if we continue emitting these 42 gigatons of carbon every year, we have only 25 years to exceed this carbon budget. What does it mean? After 25 years, if we don't cut the carbon emission, that means the earth will be very unsustainable for us. I hope it doesn't get to that. Then if we are going to maintain the 1.5 degree scenario, then we have about 17 years. Actually, we have about 17 years to stay within this budget, or the earth will be very, very unsustainable. So moving ahead from this carbon budget, now we look at how do we stay within this budget. This is the very question we should ask ourselves. If we are going to stay within this budget, how do we do this? And then the solution comes to us, and the solution is carbon capture and storage. So I will just, because of want of time, I would love to play a bit clip of the video of carbon capture and storage. Yeah, but I may have to skip that and go through the details. And carbon capture and storage is actually, the main aim of carbon capture and storage is to create negative emissions or near negative emissions. Now, negative emissions, we talk about the amount of carbon fuels or the amount of carbon entering your system should be far below the amount of carbon, should be far below what it is when it leaves the system. So if you're using biomass, for example, yes, the amount of carbon in the biomass when you're putting it into your system to produce electricity or to generate heat should be far less than what it is when it's leaving the system. If you're using fossil fuel for your generation of electricity, it should be far below what it is when it is leaving the system. That is actually the concept of carbon capture and storage, creating negative emissions. And then we look at the aim of this and what sectors can we actually apply this carbon capture and storage. We look at the agricultural sector, we look at the energy sector, we look at the manufacturing sector. Now, the agricultural sector is actually one of the emitters of carbon, but mostly what we get from the agricultural sector is the nitrous oxide and the methanes. And we know that this methane and nitrous oxide, when converted into carbon equivalent, is actually contributing to the greenhouse gases. But the main sectors which we want to look, which are looking at the implementation of this carbon capture and storage, is the energy sector and the manufacturing sector. Now, in the energy sector, we know that in 2019, the energy sector emitted over 33.3 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide. This accounts for 4.6% of the remaining carbon budget. Only in a year, we exhausted 4.6% of our carbon budget. So what happens if we keep going at this rate? So the energy sector is actually a sector whereby we need to cut the carbon emissions. Yeah, we may talk about renewable energies, we may talk about low carbon vectors, but renewable energies actually is not very sustainable. We cannot go by windmills. Windmill cannot sustain a city, or the solar power cannot provide all the energy supply of all the energy demand of a city, because currently the energy demand of the world, about 82% of the energy demand of the world, is actually from fossil fuel. It's being met by fossil fuel, which actually has carbon emissions in it. So we need to implement carbon capture and storage in this system to curb these emissions. Now we look at the manufacturing industry. The manufacturing industry, the cement industry, and the steel production. In the cement industry, for each ton of cement produced, about 800 kilograms of carbon dioxide is generated. And for the steel industry, for every ton of steel produced, about 1.5 to 3 tons of carbon dioxide is emitted. And these two industries are one of the greatest emitters of carbon dioxide, but there is no actual carbon capture and storage implemented in this system. So how do we stay within this budget if we don't implement this carbon capture and storage to curb the emission of carbon to the atmosphere from these industries? Yeah, because of want of time, I will just try to round up immediately, and I will take us to the future with CCS. What does it mean for us to have carbon capture and storage? With the fast development of carbon capture and storage, what it means is that we shall avoid the heat waves moving around. If we can curb the amount of carbon we release into the atmosphere, then we shall save the earth from heat waves going forward. Then we shall actually try to limit the amount of flooding, the amount of tsunami, tornadoes that are actually going to happen in the future. Then we shall actually have to save the land for vegetation, which will actually avoid dryness and droughts going in the future. So carbon capture and storage is a must for our systems, it's a must for every industrial process, and I hope that the government look into this technology and implement it and drive a policy that every industrial process, both in the energy sector, in the manufacturing sector, in the agricultural sector, yes, but we may have to deliberate more on that. And every system should implement carbon capture and storage if we are actually going to achieve a sustainable earth and environment. Yeah, thank you very much more for having me on this program. And I hope we understand the concept and implement it. Thank you very much.
Too easy, guys. That was my friend Christopher Onyia. So now we will move. Just before we move towards our next speaker, I just want to apologize for the timing. I do ask you guys to stay there to hang with us. There are still 2 more presentations to go. Really, really interesting presentations. So I apologize, obviously, in advance because we might just be around 8 minutes over the time, but the topics will be definitely worth it. So without any further ado, I give the floor to Edgar Molina and his topic around veganism.
All right, perfect. Thank you, and welcome everyone. My name is Edgar Molina. I have a background in environmental engineering. I'll be presenting veganism and sustainability. All right. So, veganism and sustainability. I'll try to be really quick because of the time constraints. So currently, we have, just to feed ourselves, just to feed humanity, we already generate a lot of emissions, and 20 to 30% of all anthropogenic emissions are generated just by feeding humanity, and 70% of all water use. So it takes a lot of resources just to feed the people. Right now, currently, we're 7.8 billion people in the world, and we'll be reaching about 9 to 10 billion people in the next 20 years, and we cannot give the same. We cannot sustain the world with the amount of food and the production that is currently going on. All right, so there are 3 ways that we can solve this problem. One is to produce more food by improving production and technology, such as irrigation. The other one is to reduce the amount of food that is lost or wasted, mainly through laws. And then there's the last one, which is through dietary change. Through dietary change is the one that I'm proposing, because it's the one that we can all take action right away, since we all eat every day pretty much, 3 times a day. We know that whatever we buy, the food that we buy, we can make like decisions, and it will change right away. Again, I propose veganism. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is it a strict vegetarian who consumes no food such as meat, eggs, or dairy that comes from animals. Also, one that abstains from animal products such as leather. So veganism entails economic, environmental, and social, the social pyramid and the pillars of sustainability. Again, by adopting a vegan diet, we can reduce our global warming emissions, such as we know that agriculture already generates a lot of it, and livestock by itself, so just beef, generates 80% of all agriculture emissions. So that's quite a lot. And 18% of it, it's even more than all transportation combined. Again, this is due to methane, or the cow-fired parts. This is because cows are ruminant animals, which have bacteria in their stomachs, and they live in anaerobic conditions, and they produce 35 to 40% of the methane emissions, which again, methane is 21 up to even 28% stronger than carbon dioxide. Other emissions are nitrous oxides and ammonia. Nitrous oxide accounts for 65% of all global anthropogenic emissions, and ammonia about the same. We always worry about nitrous oxide generated by cars, but we should actually be concerned about the anthropogenic emissions just from livestock, which is 65% of it. And ammonia can leach into the waters, causing eutrophication, which we'll see later on, or also go into groundwater, to the groundwater. Here you can see a table where most of the emissions of carbon dioxide equivalent also are caused by beef, lamb, pork, cheese, butter. It's greater than 4 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalents per kilogram of this type of foods. Again, there's beans, cereals, potatoes are even less than 1 kilogram of CO2 per kilogram of these types of food. Another problem that we have is the water consumption. So it takes a lot of water to feed an animal, as you know. So it's not sustainable in this case, and you can see just for bovine meat, it is about 16,000 liters per kilogram of beef. It takes 16 liters of water per kilogram of beef, and as you can see, sugar crops, vegetables, fruits, cereals are on the lower end. Then we have problems from groundwater and surface water pollution. We can see the creation of dead zones because of the blood when slaughterhouses, and they have a lot of organic content. Eutrophication is also a problem that we have because ammonia is leached into groundwater and into surface waters, especially eutrophication in surface waters, due to the excess nitrogen and phosphorus emissions. And then you can see how it kills biodiversity and fish, etc. We have also the problem of drug residues and hormones. Only in the United States, about 50% of the antibiotics that is produced is given just to animals. It's just to increase the productivity of the animal, and sometimes they're not even sick, but they just inject antibiotics to these animals for the sake of better production. But these antibiotics again are leached from the urine because they don't need them, and go into groundwater and surface waters, and then we end up consuming these antibiotics if we don't have a good water treatment system, which is most of the case in the entire world. Another problem is the biological contamination and public health hazard. Because of the way these animals are confined, we can generate pandemics like the one that we're living now. Other problems such as influenza, smallpox, tuberculosis, brucellosis, salmonella, etc., have been produced because of zoonotic of animals or bacteria and viruses produced because of this of the confinement of these animals. So according to the World Organization for Animal Health, no less than 60% of human pathogens and 70% of the recent emerging diseases are zoonotic. Again, we have the sustainability problem with land use. So it's not very sustainable to grow a cow because it needs a lot of space, or pigs need a lot of space. And 70% of all agricultural land is used just for these livestock. We know that there are some areas that we cannot grow some crops, but nevertheless, a lot of it is taken in the Amazon or in Africa. About 0.3 to 0.4% of the forests are lost annually due to pastures, just to pastures. So these sensitive places are taken off just for us to be able to grow cattle. We also have problems with fisheries or fish in general. It is said that by 2048, we will not have, in the oceans, we will not have any more fish. And because of nearly 90% of the world's marine fish stocks are now fully exploited, overexploited, or depleted. So this is a threat to marine biodiversity. It causes disease. Fisheries, sometimes farm fish, they're given antibiotics, they're given pesticides, and it can pollute other animals, preventing having problems on biodiversity directly. So vegan diet, again, according to the Association for UK Dietitians, that a well plant-based diet can support healthy living at every stage of life. So there's no need to worry. Like, everyone can do it. Pregnant woman can do it. Kids from early age. So there's no problem. That, according to the UK dietitians, there's also the American Association of Dietetics and many others who have proven that. Again, you see it on cultures such as India and many other cultures. So there's no problem. And it can actually help get a healthy heart, have a healthy heart, lower the blood pressure, control diabetes, and in some instances even to prevent diabetes such as colon cancer, help with prostate cancer and breast cancer. So as Albert Einstein said, nothing will benefit health and increase the chances for survival of life on Earth as the evolution of a vegetarian diet. And thank you so much. This was my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
That was quite interesting. Thank you very much. Really, I could say perhaps controversial. Very lot of points to discuss around. I have actually added a question for you, which I hope we can later take. Thank you very much, though. That was a really, really good presentation. And let's just move towards our last speaker of the day, our friend Stefany Chamorro, with her talk about growing your own food.
Yes, thank you very much, Camilo. I'm here to supplement a little bit the topic of veganism. So let's start it.
For joining this session, call it Growing Your Own Food. If you are a person who has the eager for helping to change the world in a positive way, consider that one needs a solid foundation of commitment in order to have an impact. And this foundation can be erected by oneself, in one's own home, because everything starts at home. My name is Stefany Chamorro, woman made in Colombia many years ago near the Ecuadorian border. And by the way, greetings to all my Latin people who is participating of this session. Well, I want to let you know that I love being and exploring the nature. I grew up in a lovely small community of farmers, and despite of that, and plus this presentation is about growing food, unfortunately I'm not a farmer. Okay, I'm just a curious student at the University of Stuttgart who believes that all of us are here to enrich the world with greater vision and better understanding of the things that interest us. And besides of that, I want to add that I love eating vegetables. I have a vegetarian diet. And talking about food, I'm sharing with you a picture of a recipe I prepared today. Obviously, that is how the dish should look like, but the reality was something different, but the taste was pretty good. This is going to be the content of my today's presentation. Firstly, I will talk to you about the food system. Secondly, we are going to look at the advantages of growing our own food. Then comes an example of the German gardening. And finally, I will share with you my own experience of growing some vegetables. In my case, I have sketched the path of eating in a sustainable way with the understanding of the food system. Probably all of you know how that works, and you can say, hey Stefany, a food system is just the chain of activities connecting food production, processing, distribution, consumption, and preparation, and waste management. But honestly, I was not 100% aware of that until I came here to Germany 7 months ago, when I had a culture shock with the packaging of almost every single vegetables and the importation of many products. Now, I not only perceive food as a necessity or something that is essential for our lives, but also that our food choices can have a negative impact on the natural world. Impacts including farming method, where food is grown, what pesticides and fertilizers are used, what is fed to our livestock, and so on. Well, we have been quite good at increasing yields to feed our ever-growing population. We have done so largely without regard for the consequences. Due to the food production, water and air had been polluted. For example, in Europe, agricultural production of food, fiber, and fuel accounts for 90% of ammonia emissions impacting air quality, 80% of nitrogen load in the freshwater bodies affecting aquatic ecosystems. Wildlife and natural habitats have been lost because of the increasing land use. Additionally to this, do you know what are the global trends population for eating? Currently, 86% of the food we eat come from rice, sugar, barley, soy, palm, and potato. Around the world, our diets are becoming increasingly similar in the food types. This leaves us vulnerable to food crisis if one of our global bread baskets fails. For example, in 2008, there was a global crisis caused by a yield loss in Australia of just a fraction of 1% of global food supply. But it leads to spikes in food prices and political and social instability in different parts of the world. Regarding the air pollution that food can cause, the following table shows the greenhouse gas emissions produced by 1 kilo of some food. It includes all the emissions produced on farm, in the factory, on the roads, in the shop, and in your home. For example, you need to drive almost 20 kilometers to produce the same emissions of CO2 as eating 1 kilogram of eggs. These facts I have mentioned make me to say to myself and my family, especially in this corona crisis, that we need to be bold and creative and truly work together to rethink food all together. So why not growing part of our food? By growing our own food, we get many benefits. I post here some of them. First, it is environmental friendly. For example, if you grow your vegetables and fruits organically, meaning no herbicides and pesticides involved, you will have the environment. Access to fresh, healthy food within the urban environment is the most obvious benefit. But gardening also provides food security for those with lower incomes and makes a city more resilient. Something that I want to point here out is that from region to region, country to country, the motivations of growing our food or gardening can differ quite. In countries of the South, for example, gardening is often driven by the basic human need of food consumption. Therefore, poorer people in particular are doing this activity. While in global North, gardening has become a lifestyle trend. For one side, people want to reconnect with the nature, plus creating meeting points for interactions and participate in city development. However, independently of who is gardening, the common denominator is that gardening diversifies the things that we grow and where it is grown to create local food economies and allowing imports and exports to supplement rather than sustain food supplies. Now, I bring to this context the example of Germany, a country where gardening is becoming more and more common as citizens continue to learn about its potential benefits. It started in 1080s with the Shabbat movement in Leipzig. The goal was to save green spaces within the city for children to play in nature. This movement eventually became more oriented around growing edible gardens in urbanized areas. The importance of these gardens grew during the World War out of necessity in order to boost food supplies. Over time, as industrialization led to higher densities within cities, urban agriculture slowly grew as German citizens began fighting for a sense of self-fulfillment and empowerment of what they are eating. Today, according to Untitled database, there are 724 urban gardens in Germany, from which 84 are in Baden-Württemberg. A study made by University of Hohenheim reported that the main reason for joining an urban gardening is that people want to contribute to the environmental protection. Now you can say, what happens if I don't have a garden or balcony in Germany? Don't worry, I have found 2 great websites with plenty of interesting data and info to find the right urban gardening project that you can join to start growing your own food. The first one is Untitled, that is a beautiful platform for growing urban nature. If you are committed for nature conservation, change in nutrition, and environmental education, you can explore this website to share your commitment and to share your ideas. In this site is also showing the types of interaction you can have with the green place or project you have found. For example, this is located in Stuttgart, and this is offering an enjoyable experience where you can learn, you can join a project, or maybe you can create a new one, and also you can change or exchange material, products, tools, and equipment or manpower. The second is the Untitled, which is a foundation that carries out research into common do-it-yourself and sustainable regionalization. The foundation offers open spaces such as community gardens, intercultural gardens, and open workshops on crafting. On the other side, many universities have urban garden projects, and Uni Stuttgart is not the exception. In Pfaffenhof campus, we have a community garden for students, university employees, and residents. The garden actually is open to everyone. You can cultivate strawberries, tomatoes, herbs, etc. And furthermore, the garden is also used for small and cozy parties in summertime. If you want more info, send an email to the Stubbles group. But now you can say, oh, Stefany, that does not make any sense to be part of these urban gardens because it implies social contact. And in this time, because of the situation, we already know social contact is something we have to avoid to certain extents. So what can we do now? I'm going to share with you my own experience. Let's start with some of the factors I had to play with. First, the seasonal weather. I had a small area available, just my room of 12 square meters. And what did I have? Just glass container, plastic cups, plastic containers, vegetables, water, and of course, kitchen scraps and seeds. This is the way I proceed. I simply place the base of mango, celery, lettuce in a plastic cup with just a bit of water. I keep always the same level of water and put them where they got a good light. After 3 or 4 days, I could notice some roots beginning to appear along with new leaves. This is part of the result. I'm still in the process of learning about this method of regrowing vegetables. If you are doing that now, my congratulations to you. If not, I encourage you to do the same. For me, it has been an amazing experience. Each morning I woke up and I go directly to them to say hello, and they give me nice surprises, new roots, bigger leaves. I see them as my kids. I could observe that this method requires barely any effort, just chop, regrow, and repeat. If you can get soil, you can transplant them, that it could be great. And finally, here are some recommended vegetables that you can regrow. It is not necessary an outdoor space. There is actually a lot of that can be done right from your windowsill. You just need a few kitchen scraps to get started. Here, I have only included items that take days and weeks to sprout back up rather than months. But before you get started, one thing that you have to take into account, try to stick to organic items since those have a lower chance of being treated with pesticides that might hinder growth. Beyond that, just have a bit of patience and you can say, hey people, I'm growing my own food, or at least part of my own food. Scallions, romaine lettuce, carrot greens, celery, cabbage, all of these veggies you can use for your kitchen. Thank you very much for your time. Start small and plant things you really want to eat. Finally, you can prove that 100% of the gardens feel happy and satisfied with the fruits of their labor.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefany. That was a really interesting presentation. We all think, I believe, have learned a lot. First, guys, I wanna say thank you to everybody for participating. The presentations are done, and this is the part to say goodbye.